everybody, good Monday morning. Lock in for 15 minutes worth of your weather forecast. Of course, we can start by taking you back in time and talking about the reason why your alarm clock, or at least the alarm clock of Mother Nature, may have woken you up extra early this morning. So we had this line of storms push through the metro between 3 and 4 a.m., dropping heavy rain on us. There was also a great deal of lightning, so lots of thunder. That's the reason you may have woken up a little bit earlier than you would have liked to. As far as the severe threat for the metro, there was none. So I hope that you aren't seeing any damage from these storms other than maybe a couple trash cans tipped over, because they were not severe and we did need the rainfall. That being said, I'll step off screen just so that I can take control of the radar here. I have this on a 6-hour loop, so we'll get up close and personal rather with the Twin Cities and take you back 6 hours ago. So here we go. This is right around 3:25 a.m. At that point, storms were approaching the Twin Cities, and I just have to say it was really cool. On my way into the station, I could see the light show out to the west of us, and then the lightning ramped up a bit as the storms rolled in. This is 10 till 4 this morning, and we were getting heavy rain here in the metro. A lot of lightning, but there wasn't any hail, and winds weren't too severe to the severe threshold. So in order to have severe wind, we need wind gusts to be 58 miles per hour or greater. And if we have hail, in order for that to be severe, we need it to be an inch or greater in diameter. We didn't have either of those things. Not that that's a bad thing. So by 4:20, all of those storms, that line of storms, was already out to the west of the Twin Cities. I could see the heavy rain falling in Stillwater from our camera there, flashes of lightning, and then we take it to 4:50. And it was all the way to, say, Red Wing, Rice Lake, marching off towards Wabasha. So this was in and out very quickly for us here in the Twin Cities. Then we had our eye on this cluster over here, and I thought, well, maybe we'll get a second round, at least for the South Metro. Maybe this cluster of storms here will bring in some additional rainfall. So we had our eye on this here, but what ended up happening, as I'll show you here once I step off screen, is this ended up passing further south of the metro than I had anticipated. So it kind of moved over I-35. Let's take control of the radar once again. You can see it moves to the southeast instead of due east. So Northfield got that heavy rain. Belle Plaine, who else was in here? Faribault, Waterville, St. Pete, New Prague, Le Sueur got some heavy rain. And there was some hail embedded in this for a time there. We had just really small hail. There wasn't anything too crazy, but we did get some hail with these storms as they moved through this area here. Rolling back, it looks like it. There we go. This is where we were. So Kenyon got that heavy rain, and then slowly but surely these storms continued on off to the south. And once they approached Albert Lee and Austin, and once they got south of Rochester, at this point here, you can see the storm ramps up a little bit. It strengthens. So we have more lightning. We have heavier rain. At this point, we also had more hail, and we did have strong wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. So at this point, we did have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings issued for areas to the south of Rochester and into northern Iowa. By about 8 o'clock, there was barely anything left on the radar here in the Twin Cities. We were clearing things out, and here within the last hour, we've seen a couple of clusters of storms develop near Austin, but otherwise, it is shaping up to be a quiet morning here across our state. Another area where we had some active weather earlier this morning was in Grand Marais. The Arrowhead actually also had a severe thunderstorm warning for a time there. And in order to see this, we're going to have to roll the clock back even further. So here we go. 4 or 5 o'clock. Now we have those storms marching towards Grand Marais. At this point was when the severe thunderstorm warning was issued. So 5:45 this morning, a severe thunderstorm warning was issued for Grand Marais. We had hail with these storms, as well as some gusty winds and obviously heavy rain and lightning. It is beneficial that we're getting heavy rain for this part of the state. Obviously, because of the wildfires, it would be more beneficial if we could get the heavy rain without the lightning, since some of those fires were started by lightning strikes, but beneficial rainfall either way. By 6:45, all those storms had pulled out of that area and were moving through Lake Superior. Then we got a couple more additional cells on the back end of it, but by 9:30, pretty much everything quiet across Minnesota. So what can we expect for the rest of today? Well, we're going to heat up. We're going to be in the low 90s. I believe this will be our 9th consecutive day of highs in the 90s. So at this point, we're used to the heat. Whatever you've been doing to stay cool, to stay safe in the heat, just keep doing that. There are no warnings in place. We do have heat advisories, but that is the lowest tier of heat advisory, or of heat alert, I should say. And at this point, we've been dealing with this heat, so we know how to take care of ourselves. Here are those heat advisories for the metro. This goes from noon until 6. This also goes down into Mankato, out to Jackson and Laverne to the west. We also have a heat advisory to our north. This is impacting parts of northern Wisconsin, including Hayward, Duluth. You're impacted, so the North Shore, you'll be under a heat advisory all the way west to Brainerd. This one's going to be in effect from 11 o'clock until 7 o'clock tonight. We'll take a quick look at the 7-day forecast, then we'll get a little bit more in depth, and then we will circle back to your 7-day at the end. Today, hot and hazy. So yes, there will be haze on top of the heat. We do have air quality alerts in effect at least through early afternoon for the eastern part of Minnesota, including the Twin Cities, and for all of Wisconsin. But tomorrow, I think that the haze improves. It thins out. We should see air quality improvements. And the heat breaks. That's the big headline. Finally seeing 80s after nearly 10 days of 90s. Really needed the break, right? That really just brings us down to average, since our average highs are in the 80s. So we're looking very seasonal through late week. Friday, 85, so that takes us just above average again. And then by next weekend, upper 80s to near 90, hot again. So enjoy that cool down tomorrow, because it is relatively short-lived. Here's a look at Stillwater. Absolutely stunning morning there. We had heavy rain just a few hours ago, and since things have cleared out. I expect us to be in the mid 80s by noon, upper 80s by 2, lower 90s by 4 o'clock, and even through dinner time, we're in the upper 80s. But because of the rain that we received earlier today, we're going to cool off a little bit quicker this evening than we have the past few days. Again, looking at the radar as of 9:30, we are only seeing a couple of storms lingering near Austin, but that's truly the only show in town at this point. I do want to talk about our air quality alerts. These are only going to be with us for the first half of the day, but you may be noticing some impacts if you are somebody who's a little bit more sensitive to changes in the air quality. So that may be if you're sick or if you have an ongoing respiratory illness that you just kind of deal with, or if you utilize an oxygen tank. These are things to keep in mind. So air quality alert for the northern part of the state, this is going to stay in effect a little bit longer, through at least noon today. For the southern portion of the state and for the Twin Cities, this air quality alert is expected to expire at 11 a.m. There's always the chance it could change, especially because we could get an additional sort of mild wave of haze later this afternoon. And then for Wisconsin, everybody under an air quality alert. Here is the air quality as of 9 a.m. Looking good for the Twin Cities. However, I'm skeptical to fully believe that, simply because some of these air quality sensors are looking for ozone and they're not necessarily picking up on the extra particulate matter in the air that is caused by smoke. So take this area of green with a grain of salt. It is an improvement. Even yellow is okay, because that means we're one step away from good. On the other hand, Wisconsin, La Crosse, a really big swath of red there, meaning that the air quality for parts of the state next door is going to be unhealthy. And you can see that unfortunately Wisconsin is where some of the worst air quality is concentrated as of this morning. We also have that unhealthy for sensitive groups category seeping down into Illinois and other parts of the Midwest, including western Michigan. But as you look out to the northeast, things are looking good for Boston, for areas north of Buffalo, really for all of New England. So there is hope yet. We just have to give it a little bit more time. As far as today goes, you can expect a whole lot of sunshine the rest of the day, a little bit hazy at times, so a little bit of that orange sunshine. High temperatures are expected to be in the low 90s, anywhere from 90 to around 94. That's what we're shooting for today. And you'll notice the heat index here on the bottom doesn't have us all that much hotter than the actual air temperature. So the heat index is how hot it's going to feel with the humidity factored in. Over the past week, we've had a few days where the heat index was at or above 100. Today is not going to be one of those days. So we can handle this. It's just not going to be the most comfortable thing in the world. That's why we have the heat advisory as opposed to an extreme heat watch or an extreme heat warning. So once again, I'll correct myself. Once again, heat advisories in effect for the metro, for areas to the south, including Jackson, Mankato, and Laverne from noon to 6 today. Additional heat advisories to our north from 11 to 7. That's going to include Brainerd, Hayward, and Duluth, parts of the North Shore there. The other component of our forecast here is the potential redevelopment of storms later today. Is it likely to happen in the Twin Cities? No. That is why we have what's called a marginal risk. That's going to be the green stripe here. That tells us that any storm that does develop could strengthen quickly, but the likelihood of storms developing is relatively low. Immediately to our east, we have that slight risk in yellow. That's going to be for the Arrowhead. It's down to Hayward, Menominee, Rochester, and then it swings a little bit to the southwest and down into Iowa. And then finally in orange, this is the area that we really want to watch closely. That's our enhanced risk. It's a level 3 out of 5. When it comes to severe weather. So that's going to impact La Crosse and really a great deal of Wisconsin today. That is where we're likely to see those storms developing this afternoon. And any storms that do develop are likely to be big hail producers and also even more so have damaging wind gusts. The tornado threat here today is relatively low, but it can't be completely ruled out. In fact, we have a graphic that shows this threat by threat, so you can get an idea of what we're watching for depending on the area. So severe weather threat is going to be greatest into Wisconsin, and these storms are likely to produce damaging wind gusts, especially in that red area. I have that enhanced risk, that's in the red, and it says SE, meaning southeast. The greatest wind threat will be to the southeast, so that area is likely to see those severe winds, which are wind gusts greater than 60 miles per hour. As for hail, it is possible, not likely, but possible that we get a couple of hail producers near the Twin Cities metro, but the greater likelihood of seeing those hail producers is going to be into Wisconsin and in southeastern Minnesota, as well as the Arrowhead, where we have an elevated risk, and then the tornado risk is low. It's pretty much non-existent for the metro, and for areas into Wisconsin, unfortunately today we just can't rule it out. So let's take a look at the microcast before we wrap things up for your 15-minute weather. It's a marathon. Thanks for sticking around. Okay, so at midday today, this is a little bit after lunchtime. This model, this is our high-res model, wants to put in some storms near Rochester, near La Crosse. This is where I start believing it a little bit more, right where I've paused it here. these storms developing in Rochester, La Crosse. I think that this is more likely to happen, this area, and then the storms should all move into Wisconsin. And that's essentially what you see happening here. Storms develop in this southeastern nose, and then they start to move into Wisconsin. Another thing that we'll be tracking over the next couple of days is a couple rounds of spotty showers for the Boundary Waters area. It's not going to be enough to snuff out the wildfires, but we'll take any moisture that we can get at this point. So it's a small sliver of hope that we have a couple chances to get some additional rainfall up there over the next few days. As far as the Twin Cities goes, beyond today, we're really not tracking any rain chances over the next 7 days. It's a very quiet forecast. 90s today. It'll be hot. It'll be hazy. It'll be a little bit humid, but the heat does break tomorrow.